The working memory model. Atkinson's and Shiffrin's 1968 multistore model was extremely successful in terms of the amount of research it generated. However, as a result of this research, it became apparent that there were a number of problems with their ideas concerning the characteristics of short-term memory. Baddeley and Hitch, 1974, argue that the picture of short-term memory provided by the multistore model is far too simple. According to the multistore model, short-term memory holds limited amounts of information for short periods of time with relatively little processing. It is a unitary system. This means it is a single system, or store, without any subsystems. Working memory is not a unitary store. Working memory is short-term memory, but instead of all information going into one single store, there are different systems for different types of information. The working memory model consists of separate stores for processing acoustic and visual information, which are controlled by a central executive. The function of the central executive is to direct the brain's resources to one of the three slave systems. It also deals with cognitive tasks such as mental arithmetic and problem solving. The central executive decides which information is attended to and which parts of the working memory to send that information to be dealt with. For example, two activities sometimes come into conflict, such as driving a car and talking. Rather than hitting a cyclist who is wobbling all over the road, it is preferable to stop talking and concentrate on driving. The central executive directs attention and gives priority to particular activities. The central executive is the most versatile and important component of the working memory system. However, despite its importance in the working memory model, we know considerably less about this component than the subsystems it controls. The main two subsystems you need to know about are the phonological loop and the visuospatial sketchpad. There is also the episodic buffer. The phonological loop. The phonological loop deals with auditory information and the order of information. It can be divided into two parts. The phonological store, the inner ear, which holds the words you hear, and the articulatory process. This is the inner voice. It is used for words that are heard or seen. Words are silently looped like an inner voice, which is a form of maintenance rehearsal. Written words must first be converted into an articulatory, spoken, code by the articulatory process before they can enter the phonological store. The visuospatial sketchpad. This is used for planning spatial tasks using visual and spatial information, such as navigating a room or counting windows in your house. It can also be divided into two parts. The visual cache, which stores information about visual items, and the inner scribe, which deals with storing the arrangement of objects in the visual field. It is likely that the visuospatial sketchpad plays an important role in helping us keep track of where we are in relation to other objects as we move through our environment. The sketchpad also displays and manipulates visual and spatial information held in long-term memory. For example, the spatial layout of your house is held in long-term memory. Try answering this question: how many windows are there in the front of your house? You probably find yourself picturing the front of your house and counting the windows. An image has been retrieved from long-term memory and pictured on the sketchpad. The final thing you need to know about is the episodic buffer. The original model was updated by Baddeley, 2000, after the model failed to explain the results of various experiments. An additional component was added called the episodic buffer. The episodic buffer acts as a backup store which communicates with both long-term memory and the components of working memory. The central executive has no storage capacity, so there's nowhere to store information that, for example, relates to both visual and auditory information. The phonological loop and visuospatial sketchpad only store and process specific kinds of information. Therefore, the episodic buffer acts as an extra storage system with limited capacity. This was added to the model to explain why some patients with amnesia can remember passages from a book when tested fairly immediately despite having no long-term recall.